want to remind everybody to take a look at the Women in Drones webpage because we have the Women to Watch going on right now. Definitely want to voice your opinion in there because there, like we said, so many amazing people in the industry. So let's go ahead and get started because I know a lot of you are here because you knew who our guest speakers were. And so we are about to meet the women of DroneUp, and they have done game-changing contributions to our industry, which is super exciting. So we have Amy Wiegand, she is here with us today, Rachel Murphy, Rese Cleaver, and Linda Quackenboss. Not just one, but 4 amazing ladies. Woohoo! All right, Amy, I think you have the ability to do the screen share, and thank you for joining us today.
Hey, everybody. It's so exciting to be here. It's really great to connect. I know this is virtual. We're all excited to get in person, but I can't tell you how happy our team is to kind of get out and do this. And what a great platform, this Coffee Connection. Thanks to Women in Drones. Thanks to Kim and Desi. This is really valuable. We need to make sure that we are part of it more often and that we continue these conversations. They're so crucial to us right now. I thought what we could do is get acquainted. A lot of you, we know each other in passing, we know each other on LinkedIn. And as I have viewed some of the past videos from this, it's allowed me to get to know everybody a little bit better and just not that drone up girl that works over there. And so I think this is really cool. So I'm really excited, and I'm even more excited for you get to meet my colleagues. Really special people, and I'm excited to share. So without further ado, I'm going to get going. This is me. You see me on LinkedIn. Thank God for Photoshop. I hated that I gained 50 pounds over COVID, but it is what it is. And my goals this year are to look like my LinkedIn picture. Just wanted to let everybody know that. But in all seriousness, I really am excited to share with you. I look back at some of the things that have happened, and I think, oh, wow. This really is something. This really is a big deal. So for all of us that are joining the UAS industry and all of us that have been involved in it for some time now, we're onto something really big and really special. And wanted to share how I got started with you today. My career took a really hard bank into a different space. I started in the advertising space. I grew up in sales and schlepped magazines and sold advertisements for newspapers, became a working publisher, and kind of retired from the advertising space when I had my daughter, and decided that it was time to do something on my own. So I created my own marketing company. 3 years later, 2008, the economy was crashing. I was lucky. I sold my business assets and decided to get another big girl job. But during that time when I was running my own, I was able to take flight lessons at a flight school here in Chesapeake, Virginia. And it inspired in me to look at my career differently, and not connecting all the dots in a sequential order here, but long story short, I became the flight school manager and business development director for the flight school that I started flight training. And part of my goals there were to build programs, develop programs. And I walked into a flight school that needed development. We were able to grow some of our military contracts. And 3 of those were actually special military operation teams. Those teams needed to understand fixed-wing UAS operations. And that was my first experience into the drone space. I listened a lot and I learned a whole lot. And as we all know, drones have been around for decades, commercial space more so over the last few decades. But this really exposed me to something that I didn't know was coming. And it's almost like, you talk about, you see a purple car and then you see 10 purple cars. I started talking about UAS and I just never stopped. And the phone started ringing at the flight school. And I had people calling probably about 2015, 2016 saying, do you do UAS training? Do you do drone training? And I said, well, you know what? Let me think about this. Yes, we do. If you want to learn how to fly a light sport, a private pilot, you want a glider or a hot air balloon certification, I can teach you how to get that certification so that you can fly UAS with your Part 33 exemption. A lot of folks tried it and didn't last very long, to be quite honest with you. It's quite cumbersome to undertake all that to fly a drone. And of course, this was before Part 107 dropped in 2017. So I reached out, and you see him on my screen. I reached out to Alan Perlman. I did a simple Google search. I didn't know anybody in the UAS space, in the commercial segment, only military. And I said, "Hi, Alan. I'm Amy. You know, I want to build a UAS program at my flight school. What can you tell me?" And obviously, he started in 2014 and was an early adapter as well. He gave me his best advice and pointed me to some of the wonderful articles he wrote. And I continued to do research, and I continued to get phone calls. And through a connection, was able to meet a guy who flew in the Navy, actually trained naval aviators. He had started flying a drone for recreation. He introduced me to a whole bunch of rec people, started having more conversations. And so I said, look, I'm going to do an open house at the flight school. Let's see who comes. Let's see what happens. If you know anything about little regional flight schools, open houses are about hot dogs and pizza. About 7 to 10 people come if you're lucky. And lo and behold, we had standing room only. We had about 40 people come. He and I presented, my mentor and I presented. He showcased his drones. At that time, it was a Phantom 3, I think, with a few other toys. And we talked about what was coming, what we saw coming, and had a lot of dialogue with the people who came. They asked a lot of questions. A lot of the questions were about legalities and about Part 107. When was that coming and what they could do, you know, before it dropped. So we did that. We spent about an hour, and lo and behold, a couple months later, I get a call from the Virginia Department of Emergency Management. They said, "Hey, Amy, we were at your open house. We'd like to have you train our sheriff, police, and firemen out in a county adjacent to where we live." And I said, "Oh wow, this is big. I don't have a curriculum. Nobody has a curriculum. Alan didn't even have a curriculum." And so I pulled in a certified flight instructor who was also a nuclear engineer. And I said, "Hey, you're going to write a training program with me." And what we did, if you guys saw it, it's literally a binder, some really nice Word doc curriculum on airspace and weather, MEDAR and tasks, and you know, sectionals. And so we tried to acclimate this team of people that were also very forward thinking. And some of you may know and have heard of Chris Sadler. He was one of the first in the public safety space to really take a hold of UAS as an operation for those teams, and has since won awards and been a great person to reach out to help understand with public safety UAS development. So that was really cool. And we did that. And then a couple months later, I got a guy that came into the flight school. He said, "Amy, I want to learn how to fly. Price me on, you know, what it's going to cost me to do this." And he said, "I think, you know, you might not remember me, but about 6 months ago, I came to your open house." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "That's awesome. What'd you think?" And he said, "Well, I'm with NASA." I said, "NASA?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You didn't know this, but a group of us were there. A group of us that were there were watching you. We were watching the people, and we were watching you so we could get an idea of what people were looking at and talking about in the commercial space, so we could go back and build Part 107. And then about 8 months later, Part 107 dropped. And of course, we were just a tiny, tiny part of that. But looking back at it, I see how pretty cool it was to be a tiny, tiny part of something that's just much, much bigger than me and all of us here. So it's really cool to share and kind of loops you into how I got into this and how and why I'm a marketing director. I started in sales. I started in sales in the advertising and marketing space. Loved flying, love aviation, and so it ties everything together for me pretty beautifully. I'm pretty happy where I'm at. But you know, I have to say, all of these efforts take a lot of people and collaborating, a lot of people collaborating. And without the people involved and laying that foundation for the next generation, we can't move forward. So I have to say that one of my favorites is the next generation. And Sharon Rossmark, I think you're on the call. You've said this before and reiterated it before. See me, be me. It's one of my favorite quotes. And I'm really excited to be a part of this community because there's so many of us out there sharing our stories and cultivating our knowledge. And it's just a key. It's just a key to the next generation's success. So thank you for having me. Speaking of the next generation, I'm going to move on to my teammates. I'd like to introduce my counterpart, Rachel Murphy. She's DroneUp's marketing manager, and Rese Cleaver, she is DroneUp's sales director. And of course, you guys know Linda Quackenboss. She is the great diva queen of drone piloting. And we're excited for her to share a bit more about the Walmart delivery project she worked on. So without further ado, Rachel, it's all yours.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I am Rachel Murphy. As Amy said, I'm the marketing manager for DroneUp. I came to DroneUp about 2 years ago, and my background prior to that was in marketing and in graphic design with a little bit of experience with defense and the nonprofit space, a little bit of tourism thrown in there, and some agency experience. So that's kind of how I came to DroneUp. And so I'd spent a really interesting time, over the last 2 years in the industry. Obviously, DroneUp's grown a lot. We've seen a lot of changes, but the industry has as well. And I feel like I'm very lucky to have come in at the time that I did, and really be able to see that and ride that roller coaster with everybody here. So thank you all for welcoming me to the industry with open arms. And I'm glad to see some faces I recognize out in the crowd. So that's very exciting. But one thing that I wanted to talk about today was an initiative that I started about a year ago, and that is the Drone Emoji campaign. So I don't know if any of you all know, but about a year ago, we started a campaign that was targeted at gaining a drone emoji. Prior to that, there was no drone emoji, and Amy and I were talking about, how do we bring the drone conversation to the mainstream and really get people talking about it outside of the people in this room, and do it in a positive light that doesn't relate to, something that has happened. And so that was something that we had identified as being an opportunity to take something that everybody uses all day long and really have a representation of our industry there. And so in doing that, I did a little bit of research. How do you get an emoji? And I found that there is an organization called the Unicode Consortium that oversees all public communication efforts, and that includes emoji. And they accept applications from the public to have new emojis brought forth. And so in doing that, I found out that I could secure my very own drone emoji, but in order to do so, I would have to write a 10-page research paper as to why a drone emoji was something that needed to be added. And so that's what we did. We pulled together all sorts of justification, historical information, the search data as to how many people are looking for drones and drone emojis out on the internet. And so there was a really large process that went on behind the scenes in order to kind of bring this to the world. And in doing so, we submitted our application in March of 2020. And to kind of temper with that, we also put out a petition on change.org to sign up to put your name behind gaining a drone emoji as kind of some additional evidence to this emoji subcommittee that oversees them all as to why it's needed and to why we are all passionate about it. And so there is a petition out there, and we have just over 800 signatures right now. I would love to get to 1,000. So if you get the chance, please do go and sign that. I would appreciate it. And so basically, a lot of people have asked, why is this important? Why would you want to bring a drone emoji out there? It kind of seems silly. And sure, it is something that's kind of fun and a lighthearted take on the things that we do every day. But the way that Amy and I think about it is that, you know, there are over 5 billion sent every day on Facebook. And if we want to be a part of the mainstream culture, we have to be everywhere in mainstream. And there's nothing that does that more than emoji. I don't know about you guys, I send them about probably 100 times a day myself. And so being able to be a part of that and to be a part of communication, I think is really important. And so our initial application, I am sorry to announce, was denied. However, we did reapply. And so now we are awaiting some additional feedback from the organization. And so that is kind of why and how we went about this kind of pursuit and this quest for a drone emoji. But in and along this process, we actually were reached out to by an organization that you may have heard of. It's called BBC. And they requested an interview with us to talk about the drone emoji and emoji in general. So Amy and I have sat down with BBC and have done this interview, and we heard back from them shortly after, and they decided that it was a really interesting conversation and that they wanted to expand it into a 5-part series on emoji and their kind of impact on culture today. And so keep your eye out for that. It should be launching in June. There will be a 5-part series on emoji from the BBC, and the drone emoji will have its own segment in that. So that it's kind of the drone emoji story, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that you guys will support it and keep your eye out for it. And speaking of bringing drone technology to the world, next up is my colleague, Rhys Cleaver.
All right, thank you, Rachel, and hey, everybody. So I'm Rese Cleaver. My background is a lot in government sector, federal, military, and then also transitioned to state and local government. I worked a lot with Department of Transportation, Design and Construction, and then migrated that information and things like that to commercial sector also. A lot of overlap there, which we'll see here. Yeah, that's me. I'm not great at talking about myself. I don't know. All right, so first off, I wanted to kick this off with talking about my new podcast, a DroneUp podcast called REITs with Rhys. So REITs, for those of you who don't know, are real estate investment trusts. They're kind of like portfolios of stocks that are real estate involved. But it's a lot. It's a really, really, really big market. So with REITs with Rhys, what I do is I take all of that market intel and things that are, you know, quasi market, like commodities, even weather, bring it all together and say, hey, this is what should be done for business leaders to streamline and grow their business. You know, real estate was hit really hard in COVID. Really relevant to all of this is technology, property technology or prop tech, and drones are a huge part of that. So when it comes to prop tech and drone services, we saw in COVID a huge spike with remote inspections. So facades, roofs, even large structural assets like towers, tanks, ships, things like that. The really neat thing about it is it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. So we've done some really incredible things. We've had clients initially come to us because of social distancing and or they can't travel, and they're like, our stakeholders are addicted, so we're going to have to keep this thing going. Now, even so, then looking at kind of this market, a couple other things that have been really hot too are the construction progress monitoring, the stakeholder meetings when the project manager wants to update their leadership and what have you on what's going on. They can pop open and, you know, like in Drone Deploy, you have the slider. You can say, all right, here's where we were last month and here's where we are today. And it's extremely powerful. Also, even just, you know, showing investors that their money is being put to good use. insurance companies, we've been doing a lot with them also. And they really like the fact that we can go out immediately after, after severe weather and go capture what's going on in areas that people probably shouldn't go or just can't reach in general. So it's really reduced the risk there, which also actually helps reduce premium. So that's been a neat benefit for the world at large, I guess you could say. And then one thing that's not here too is mortgage companies. So whether it's commercial or residential, being able to give the mortgage companies a true high fidelity, they can go in and touch it, zoom in, see a snapshot of the condition of that structure, asset, building, house that someone's trying to get a loan for. It really helps them feel more comfortable with approving that loan. Because otherwise they're like, well, it's subjective. We got a couple, chicken scratch things written on a report from the inspector. It's gone a long way for that. So those are the big aspects of it. And then again, with the capture, even when you're doing it with a mortgage, then from there on, passing that to the insurance company, helping with the premium there, and then the periodic condition assessment. So I don't know how much you guys have started dabbling in property tech kind of value propositions to clients or even participated in it, but I'm happy to answer any questions about what the market's looking for, positioning, and also the types of flights that we've developed in the flight patterns too. So with that, I think that's everything on my soapbox. So I'm going to hand it over to Linda.
Well, good morning again. You know all about me. DroneUp. I had the pleasure of working for DroneUp as a contract pilot for this nifty new program that they did late last year. So DroneUp was actually the first company, and I don't know, the only company to be delivering test kits to residents within a mile location of this particular Walmart store. We started in North Las Vegas, and then DroneUp moved on to New York and El Paso as well for test markets. And so we had a mobile command station. You see it over here. You see me here loading up the drone. Actually, we used Inspire 2s, and you see me just about to put that on its end, and I'm going to be loading a package underneath there. In this photo over here where the technicians, the pharmacy people, you can kind of see the package underneath it right there with the legs up, and it's hard to see there, but we had two fail safes on this. This photo where the package is hanging from the drone is the second portion of delivery. So it's held in place by clamps underneath the drone. And then when we are on location, when we are at the appropriate place, we had remote technology that allowed us to open up the drone legs that lifted up. And then we had the second portion there where we could lower the drone and then drop the package at the location. And so here we are. Chris over here is, we were flying at night, as you'll see in another slide as well. So we did these deliveries daytime and nighttime to people who signed up to receive a COVID test kit. And we had, I think on the next day, there's a little bit closer of an idea of how we did the packaging. These are the test kits, all bundled up and ready to be added to the drone. And here is a sample delivery right there. And of course the Inspire 2. It was a lot of fun to be a pilot for this because we were planning missions. And so we would get an address from the recipient. We would plan the mission directly to their home over safe areas to fly within FAA regulations. and we would deliver. We had VOs out in the field as well. So if the pilot, the visual observer next to the pilot was not able to see the package by radio control, we were also talking to the VO in the field who would have eyes on the drone the full time. So that's how we were maintaining visual line of sight the entire mission. Same thing on the reverse. So once the package was delivered, the VO watched it all the way as far as they could until it was obtained visually by the VO at the location. So that's how we worked that particular portion of the missions. Next slide. There we go. There you see. This is the mission control. We had a van, a fully equipped van, out, mobile command center out on location with us. And that, of course, stored all the technology that we needed to run this. We set up right on the parking lot, right outside. You see us in the great gamers chairs. They were wonderful, with all the additional monitors that we needed and the control stations. We had multiples of everything so that you always had ways to be connected. And then this additional photo here shows what me as the pilot would be seeing on the delivery. So I would know that it was going into either this driveway or that driveway or this front of home right there. And the VO was at that location. So they knew exactly that the package was not going to be delivered into the trees or, any other, not preferred location. So we had full connectivity the entire distance on there. And it worked beautifully. It really did. We, as I said, we would start at 8 in the morning and we were done sometimes at 8 at night. The pharmacy would wrap up the packages for us. We would take it a step further and wrap it for flight abilities. And this was the press conference that we had. We had lots of people from the press there, and there is me, yes, packaging up, demonstrating what the package was going to look like and be affixed to the drone. And then we were going to take off. Also in this overhead shot here that you see of the Walmart parking lot, if you look up to the upper left, there is a desert opening there and behind the Walmart store. Those were two of our alternate landing sites, which was very important for the FAA. Behind this shot, there was also alternate landing sites on each of our locations along the way, so that if there were ever any issues. Also nearby this Walmart, there happened to be a hospital, like a remote hospital, if you will, that had a helicopter landing pad. So on occasion, we needed to, in fact, it happened to me once directly that I was flying and I was able to see that the helicopter was coming. I needed to lower the drone, let the helicopter pass, and then I resumed the mission and went on. This location is also about half a mile, 2 miles away from the North Las Vegas airport. So on occasion, we had fixed wing aircraft that would fly directly over our situation there with the mobile command center. And sometimes it really felt like they were flying less what their ceiling was, but we never had any incidents. We were just always very cautious with visual observing that as well. So it was an excellent program. We did a lot of flights. Everything was worked as it was supposed to. It was a very great experience.
Thank you so much, Linda, Rachel, and Rhys. Thank you so much for sharing just this little tiny bit of your life with DroneUp. We really appreciate you and your collaboration with our team. I'm going to pass it back to Desi and Kim. Where do you want us? Where do we need to be?
Well, that was fantastic. Oh my gosh, so many exciting things. We just can't thank you enough for sharing, everyone sharing. And so we'll open it up really quick, like if anybody had any questions. I know there's a lot of comments going back and forth inside our chat. So if we wanted to ask any quick questions before we go to the breakout sessions. And
So I have to say, I'm going to bow to the Queen Linda, because when she it's Inspire 2s, it's gaming chairs, big screen TVs.
They provided all that. That was awesome.
It was awesome. The Queen, I mean, who gets that kind of royal treatment? That was awesome. Those are the kind of things I'm like, man, that sounds like a sweet operation. I like all that bougie stuff.
Well, it made it very, very helpful so that you could keep your focus on flying and not all of the other things that you needed to make sure that you had. It was just it flowed very, very well together. So I know the DroneUp team had a lot of meetings ahead of time, figuring everything that we would need as pilots. And they did an excellent job of prepping the space for us to do what we were able to do for them.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was great. We have Shawnee, I think, has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. I'm really new to this. I'm just getting into it, taking the class to get into my Part 107 to take it. I didn't understand, how did the VO work with it? Like, was it at location at the residence, you said, or how did that work exactly?
We had two VOs. One, me as the pilot, I was always focusing just on the screen and on my mission. Then we had a VO next to me in the same vicinity as where I was flying. So whichever direction I was going, they would be able to maintain sight with the drone. And then we had a VO out that had driven out to the location of where the package would be delivered. So they knew where it was and where the drone was expected to fly. And we were in touch with via walkie-talkies or cell phone, whichever worked better that particular day. And so we were always in contact with each other, and there was no missed communication anywhere, because we always knew where the drone was and where our people were.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for answering.
All right, well, we thank you so much, every one of you, for coming and sharing with us. You all had a unique story. That's what I just love. Everybody had an interest in the drone industry, but it was all from a unique perspective. So thank you so much, all of the women of DroneUp. Thank you for sharing with us. That kind of wraps it up.